All right, today on the other side of adversity, we have a fascinating guest. We have Felicia Luca, who is the managing director of Brand Ambassador Select. And the subject we're going to broach is something that's really affected all of us in 2020, which is the whole COVID situation. And Felicia, as the managing director of Brand Ambassador Select, how did you get through? Tell us about your company and what you had to pivot through with COVID and how that affected your company. And
That's fine.
ha-
Well, here we are. It's going to be almost a year now, Dr. Dan, since everybody was told about, officially told about COVID and so forth. So our company, Brand Ambassador Select, actually began a little over 2 years ago. And we were doing live events. I come out of the health and wellness industry, so we incorporated that into our live events for corporate America, doing lobby events and going out to 55 generation active, like yourself and myself. We're in that in the age group, just by a little tad, right? So when COVID hit, it was I was actually on a flight to Atlanta to do an event, and nothing had ended yet. Got off the airplane and got a call from the gentleman running the event, from the lobby event, said, Felicia, it's hit our building. I said, oh my, I just got off the plane. So had to do a pivot, went to the building, said hello, turned around, pivoted, came back, and then things changed for us. And coming out of a live event company, it's a very, very big pivot. And talk about adversity. You have obstacles that are put in front of you. It's like, what do you do? So I was a team of 3 gals, and we got together. We have a host, and she was doing our live events, and she said, you need to reinvent some quickly. Let's do a podcast. So you have an avenue to actually present to the vendors and the companies you were working with. So within 3 weeks, we basically pivoted, created a podcast. And here we are today with not just a podcast, but also running product reviews for companies, as well as doing Facebook live streams, and also doing representing select podcast guests, which is another site that we created. So a team of 3 gals decided to just go and pivot and do everything. We hit a lot of obstacles, Dr. Dan, through this whole thing.
Felicia, just for our audience, just to really get the magnitude of this. So you're a company that does or was doing health fairs in person and in corporate America, and then all of a sudden you can't be in front of people. So, and you've got payroll to meet and all those kind of things, and you guys pivot on a dime basically as you get off the plane.
That's true.
At one point were you thinking, can this be done?
I think that's a question that went through everybody's mind, no matter what business and industry we're coming from. Can we continue to do this, or can this be done? Can we start something new? I came out of the health and wellness initially, but our part of the business, Brand Ambassador Select, was called Healthy Lifestyles event. So they had the whole component of health and wellness, along with the other different kind of fun vendors that were selling, that you can find on e-commerce or down in your local, when everybody says buy local, vendors and shops. And so we were able to do all that, but you said in a dime, yeah, we did it. And was there a lot to really think about? Absolutely. Were we scared? Without a doubt. Could we pull it off? We had no doubt at that point. I think we just schooled ourselves together and pushed through. And then during that whole time period, we got to meet you.
You did. I mean, and you are a very professional company. And to think that you had not done podcasts, am I right before that?
We hadn't. The host had some experience in the back and many years ago. And so, but this is a whole totally new area for us.
And I was fortunate to come into communication with your company right after I had a stroke, and I wanted to really do something that would inform people that had gone through some illnesses that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And who would know that our whole country would be going through something like this, and that everyone was sort of looking for that light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I think, Dr. Dan, I know your story, since we've spoken a few times, many times actually. What you've gone through is a lot, and you've pushed through, and you're thriving, and your business is thriving, and you personally are thriving. So that's most important. And every time I speak to you, it's another step further. And moving forward for you. I can share with you, and you probably don't know this, but I'll share something with you. I've gone through a few things in my back of my life that might come to the table with this conversation. I myself have suffered too many strokes that you are not aware of.
I was not
Uh,
aware of that.
yes, when my children were younger, and I've pushed through with the help of my family and the support. I've had a number of medical issues that I've pushed through that have helped me to become stronger. And I think one of the things that people need to know out there is no matter what obstacles are thrown at your way, yes, can you be down about them? Yes. Can you think twice and say, can I push through this as yourself? You know very well. Um, and there are times when you just don't think you can do it. But you know what? You have to be strong. I'm a true believer that you sit back. I'm a big believer in listening to very slow, focused music that helps me to guide me and to relax me. And I think the biggest part for me to push through my obstacles, since we were talking about that adversity, is I've had a very tight family core, a wonderful husband of over 33 years now, and kids who are in their 20s who have just been there, and we've all been very tight. So no matter what has been thrown at our way, you push through. Uh, we are part of the herd now ourselves, four
Yeah.
of us in my family. So COVID hit us, and it was a change for all of us here as well in my family. I have no problem sharing that with you.
I
So
think
go ahead,
the
ask
more
me.
people I talk to, so many people have actually gone through such difficult times recently that, I mean, I'm so happy to be able to present people like yourself that have such a great outlook and are so strong and are such an inspiration to everybody. And thank you for being on the show, and thank you for being as strong as you are. And I know it's funny looking back on it. It's a little bit different than when you're going through it, but the fact that you can look back on it with such strength and such power. And for me, it's always been faith, family, and friends, right? I mean,
True,
that's
very
really
true.
the three F's.
Very true. You know what, Dr. Dan, I know that when you suffered your stroke, push you back, push you to your limits to see how far you could go. And I know that you have that support around you, like you said, faith, family, and friends that are helping you. I like to think that sometimes we're there because I'll talk to you at times and you're like, Felicia, I did this today. And I'm like, good, because it's true. Because it's true. Every small step. And I think that's what people forget is every small step leads to a very big scale of moving forward and feeling better about yourself and achieving your goals no matter what. Because during the pandemic, people didn't know what they were doing. Some people are still sitting home and waiting for everybody to tell them, it's okay. You can go back and you can start again, or you can continue with what you were doing. And you see that probably with some people or people around you.
We really have. I mean, we stayed open pretty much throughout the pandemic, but we switched. We just did emergencies because we realized that there were hospitals that were overloaded, and we did not want our patients to actually put themselves at risk and overload the hospitals any further. So, whatever we felt that we could handle here, we felt we would take the load off the hospitals, and that was our commitment. So,
And
it's
that was
interesting,
exactly, it's
right?
because, I mean, really what you did was from your heart to help everybody to stay open. That's the bottom line, because a number of doctors' offices did close for a while as well. They just didn't want to see patients. They were, a lot of doctors would go telemed as well. We've had some doctors in our lives here on our side that said, no, you can't come near the office. So, staying open for your patients is a big thing. Thank you, because we need to have more doctors out there doing that, because some of them are really, I get it. When you get to a certain age group, you think twice about it and you halt a little bit more. Uh, I'll halt at times, you know.
I have a good friend whose daughter was a neurology resident in New York,
Uh-huh.
and I would hear stories. I mean, just being in the thick of things throughout the whole hardest times. I mean, her bravery was unbelievable. I mean, she really faced life and death on a daily basis, and everything you hear about on the news, I got directly from her and my friend, and you see the real bravery of people come through in difficult times, and everybody's got their own sort of story having gone through this, but I am so proud of you and what your company has done. And really, you've helped us get our message out. And our message is really just one of inspiration and hope and faith. And thank you for that.
That you're quite welcome, but I thank you because you allowed us to work with you to achieve that and to bring that to people for them to understand. Because that's, I mean, that's the bottom line. Because if people don't hear and they sometimes listen to the news and they're one track, you need to hear that there are some positive things out there and how people have pushed through. We do that on a daily basis with our clients. We've had, and here's an example. We work with some brands, and brands came forward, new brands, and this pandemic hit and they're thriving, and we help them to continue their sales and to push themselves out there. While you have some of the big companies that sort of halted, and that's in one industry. Think about it, and you're in the medical industry. So when you're talking about somebody in the neurology area, and they're telling you they're the front runners, they're the first responders, they're seeing it on a daily basis, and you know what? They know better than anybody out there what to expect, what it is, not what to expect. I shouldn't say it that way because nobody really knows what to expect these days. More of knowing that something is there. And at the very beginning, if you remember, Dr. Dan, people didn't know. People went into that major panic and they didn't know what to expect. And if you got the virus, what would happen? You always heard, and it's very sad that so many people have passed, but there are so many people who have survived. And in our family here, we had 4 of us, that had it. And one of us, my husband, he did not have he had a mild case, but then it lasted a cough for 2 months. He had a cough that just sounded like he was a smoker. And so there's different ways that this virus has affected every family. And we don't know what will come out of it, but we have to think positive, because I'm a true believer in thinking forward and never sitting in that. So you yourself, you've shown that, you've proved that for yourself and for all the people around you. By the way, I like your new mic. I just like your new mic.
I just said, we're going to put on the best mic for you. We're going to do our best because
the best mic for me.
This is formal. This is much more formal than before. But Felicia, let me ask you one more question, just as far as watching the news. And I mean, I just started really shutting off the news because it was just so negative. I mean, clearly you needed some information, but it just seemed like you didn't feel any better after watching it. You got more scared. It was almost like the boogeyman. And I guess it was like the boogeyman, but.
Do you remember the boogeyman when you were growing up? Even your parents said the boogeyman. Now, I don't even know if anybody uses the phrase the boogeyman, but I know, think about that. When you were growing up, I'm going to go back years. What kind of obstacles did we as kids growing up in the 70s, the 60s, the 70s, that we saw our parents? Do you remember anything that you might have seen that they had to push through? That was a totally different generation too than we are.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to walk around by myself as a kid. I would walk back and forth to school, things you would never allow a kid to do, I don't think now, I grew up in New York and we would walk about a half a mile. I mean, now I'm sounding old, like we'd go through a snowstorm uphill the whole way,
And you'd carry your books the whole time, right?
I carry my books.
But it's true. It's true. You know what? Here's an obstacle that I remember growing up with. It was they used to, would they have the fallout shelters in your school where if the bomb would hit or something, you'd have to go and you took oh my gosh. Oh, help me out here, Dr. Dan. I went to school in Brooklyn. You're in New York. So we grew up the same. So think about, so when you had an alarm go off in your school, you had to go and you had to go to the basement of the school. Everybody had to pile together. Those are things that we're living through crazy times, but when we were kids, there were different things that were there as well.
One thing I do remember was when they landed on the moon and they had a little black and white TV in the auditorium. They must have packed 200 of us in, and you could see it as a little dot. And it was, I must have been, I don't know how old I was, 8, 9 years old. It was still a big event, but I still remember that black and white TV all the way at the bottom of the auditorium.
And think about that. We survived black and white TVs, and then color came. So we had to turn those knobs and get off that couch or that chair to turn the channel. to one of the 5 channels, I guess, I'm really aging myself, to see something. And we were just taught differently.
I
You know,
remember, God bless my dad, when he was alive, he told me I was a kid. He said one day people are going to evolve to just have one big finger to push buttons. He might be right.
yeah, he might be. So think about that, and that generation had a lot of obstacles to go through, to push through. Generations that came across from Europe and abroad and came here and started with nothing. So we have obstacles other ways. They had obstacles and they left their families behind. And that one person would come to America and start here and try to bring the family, to America. So we're a little different. I mean, they had obstacles. Not that our obstacles are nothing. It just comes in different forms. And
My
medically, go
my,
ahead.
my grandfather was in a concentration camp called Buchenwald, which was in Germany, and he was rescued. And my mom was actually brought up in Shanghai. They were
Oh,
escaping, and Shanghai was the only place that would take Jews at the time. And then communism came in; they had to escape from there. So, but I'll tell you one thing about my grandfather: he was always smiling and always laughing and always upbeat. And you really don't appreciate it as much until you look as a kid. You go, yeah, that's normal. But when you look back on life, having been through things, and you see that somebody that been through that much that can still smile and laugh, your appreciation is like, wow.
right.
And it also makes you stronger because you're like, you know what? If they could go through that and come out smiling, I can go through what I got to go through and do the same thing.
That is
And
correct. My grandfather, in Greek, we call him Papuli. He would always go around saying, God bless America. And that was his big thing because he came to America, pushed through everything, and was able to provide for family. So you look at all that and go, oh my, we will push through it as you have, as I am doing, as many people are doing now. Everybody has a story, as you said. And there are so many stories to be told and shared out there. And hopefully, generations after us will reflect on those stories and understand.
Felicia, after I had the stroke, and there was a period where I was starting to feel sorry for myself, and then I started talking to other people, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I started hearing their stories, and I'm like, "Just shake it off, man! Come on."
That's good because you look what you just did to them. You helped them. You helped them push through. In the meantime, you are pushing yourself through because of that,
I
because it
am.
makes you
I
think
am.
about that.
Thank you.
Because we all think about what it was like to do this or to do that or go through this and that, and then you go wow, and you look at somebody else and you meet somebody and go oh wow, because we're so closed in our own stories that we don't know what else is out there. So just keep pushing through, Dr. Dan, because that's most important when you think about it.
So,
What's your advice to people for pushing through an adversity?
I mean, try to look at like positive things things you've actually gotten through, almost like a little cookie jar, if you would, that you put all the positive things in, and
Good,
every
that's
once in a while
exactly it.
pull those out and go, you know what? I got through that. I can get through this.
That's right. And you've given back, I understand, right? Haven't you given back to communities in a big time, in a big way?
We've been doing for 30 years. We've actually been doing a Shoes for the Needy campaign. We've raised thousands and thousands of shoes. And matter of fact, we're going to go for the world record in a couple of
Oh,
years for the most shoes ever raised by a business.
so we're
And
going to see you in
they
the
take
Guinness
those
Book.
shoes and they convert it into food and shelter, and it's all part of my belief in really giving back to the community and being thankful for what people have given us, and it's part of just repaying it, right? Repay it forward, or whatever they
That's
say,
true.
pay it
That,
forward.
that you're absolutely correct in giving back and all that. I did that all of my life when I was younger with my kid.
Felicia, tell me about Brand Ambassador Select. Who are you now? What have you evolved into?
All right, so we were a live event company, as I said. That's how we started. And here's a story. Okay, I don't think you know this story either. When I had approached the CEO of our company and said I have an idea for a subsidiary of the company, and he says, "Can you pull it off?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "We've been working with vendors. We work with brands. I think that we can pivot a little bit away from directly the health and wellness and add another component there." He says, "Okay." Salespeople, and he can attest to this. Salespeople around us in the same room that I was in laughed at me, said this can never happen. When we created a website, they called it the fake website. And honestly, I pushed through all of that because I had a lot of negative vibes. I had a lot of negative words said to me. And my CEO, he actually backed me 100% on that. And I pushed through. I pushed through as one person, actually. And I got past those obstacles to prove that this could work because I had an idea and I knew it would work. And then we brought some other people on. And that's why we're a team of 3 ladies. So when I look back at it and I go, a lot of obstacles. I had adversity, not for the medical part in that respect, to grow this business, but it grew. And we are really pushing forward now because our Select Podcast Guests, which is our other creative site, is a major hub for podcasters, for guests, the expert guests in any industry, as well as brands and products new and established that are all coming together. We began a blog. And now that blog appears on both Brand Ambassador Select and Select Podcast Guests. And we are becoming the review company. So if anybody had a new product they wanted to have reviewed, you send it to us, we review it for you. And then you have a video, you have audio, you have a written review. So we've really developed that. So get ready. You need us to write a blog for you, Dr. Dan?
I think we're ready, Felicia. I think we are ready.
We can review you.
I got to tell you, I love you guys. And Felicia, you're actually young, so I don't want to say this the wrong way, but what's it like to
Thank you.
change careers a little bit as you, not that you, I don't want to say as you get older, but you know,
Okay, you can say that.
all right.
Well,
Then I will
I
say
came, when I was a little younger, okay, I was in the sales field and did very well for myself. And then I had children. I had difficulty having children. So my focus in life was to be that mom and have children and grow my family. So I didn't work for many, many years. And I went back part-time to this health and wellness company, and they gave me a shot as being a coordinator. From there is when I went back into sales and then came up with this idea for Brand Ambassador Select. My heart has always been in sales and to grow. So that's what I bring in, the creative part. And the 2 gals who are with me in this side of the company, one is extremely creative. The other one, she's just out there and she just knows how to chat with people and bring them on board. So I mean, we're a really good mix. We're hoping to grow, which I shouldn't say hoping, we will be growing this year. And so all of 2021, for all those people out there who are listening, you can really thrive. You just have to really be persistent about it and have faith in yourself and the people around you.
Felicia, talk to me about that word persistence. So what does that mean to you? And in your life, have you ever seen anything that was worthwhile that you had to persist through that didn't sort of kick back at you a little bit?
Okay. Persistence. You have to have that drive inside, that inner drive. If you lack that drive and that passion, I truly believe that you're going to be stagnant. And I also believe that when you are growing in any capacity, surround yourself with people like yourself who want to grow and have that passion that you have. And that's how you will flourish. If you're around, you have people surrounding you that are stagnant, just don't know, understand how you can grow a business or how you can develop more as a person as well. You're never gonna thrive. So persistence. Give you one example, Dr. Dan.
I'd love an example, please.
Well, I gave you earlier about how I grew the business itself, but I tell my team, who are neither of them are from the sales background that I am at, and they have had to step in to positions and outside of their comfort zones. And I always tell them there is no box. So you're not stepping outside of the box, you're just growing, whatever it is you have worn many, many hats and have helped. Because I really believe that where we are now, it wouldn't be, I think it needed to be those 3 people together. And I'm looking with, like, as I said, we're growing the business and we're looking to really expand. And there's so many good things because we're going to bring back live events. As soon as we're allowed in certain states, we're doing that. So what will help and be persistent is I meet new brands, I meet new guests, we bring them on, we help them in all capacities. And when the live events come, watch out world, because we're going to have those events.
Don't you find that when you as a team survive through whatever obstacle it is, you come out stronger on the other side, and you're not so scared to take on other adventures or obstacles. Would that seem to be true?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, in your own personal life as well, like you were saying earlier too, your family and friends around you. Uh, get those toxic people out of the way. Sorry, everybody, if you have some toxic people out there, if they're not around you, you tend to do better because you
You know,
don't think about
can I
that.
tell you a little story? I was at the gym. I've been working out at the gym trying to get my strength back.
I want to see the
And,
muscles, Dr. Dan.
I'm waiting for Arnold to call me up and go, "How'd you do that?" But
He'll be back. Go
one
ahead.
gentleman, a gentleman came up to me and he said, "I've been watching you work out. I'm very impressed." And he said, "I also had some adversity." I said, "What happened?" He had brain cancer. He had surgery and he couldn't walk. And he said, "It took me 3 years to walk." He said, "And he looked fine." And he said, "Can I tell you something?" He goes, "I've never told anybody else." I'm like, "Sure." He said, "It was the best thing that ever happened to me." Now, what an odd thing to say, right? You had brain cancer, you had surgery, you couldn't walk, you had to push through walking. But he said, because it changed his perspective on life and it gave him a chance to really reflect on those things that were most important to him.
That's what I was gonna say. Reflection is the most important because you do
Yeah.
tend to reflect. You know yourself, you've probably reflected numerous times, since everything happened with you. It's just normal. It's normal, but it helps you.
I've had a chance to do that. And again, like you said, I reflected on the important things, and it also allowed me to really be thankful of getting to meet the people in my life that I guess I was supposed to meet, like yourself, like your CEO John.
Yeah.
Just you guys are just an amazing group, and it's been quite a blessing getting to work with you. And I'm sure I haven't been the easiest client in the world, but
So
don't laugh.
I still love you. Don't worry.
That's
Don't
where
worry.
you go. Oh, that's not true. You have been the easiest. Come
Well,
on.
here it is. If we were on a train ride, because I believe that, you're on that train ride for life and people get on, people get off in your life.
Sure.
I don't know. I might have been pushing you off a little bit, but you're still in there. Don't worry.
I'm still on.
You're still on. You're hanging
Okay, I'm still hanging on. I'm not in the caboose, but I'm hanging on.
Exactly. That's exactly it. No. You know what? People go through so many things in life. I've seen my kids go through so many things. People around me, friends that, yeah, you have many stories to tell. You have many podcasts to come, Dr. Dan, because so many people have stories to share with you, and that's what's really important. That's why I think your topic is great.
And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to speak to people. And Felicia, isn't it true that when you've gone through something and you see like your kids or younger people go through the same thing, you want to jump in and go, "Come on, do this." You want to grab them, but you know what? They've got to experience whatever it is that they've got to experience, I guess, right?
No, no, and that's exactly it. All right. Okay. Here's transparency. My two boys are gymnasts. They went to the collegiate level. Through those years, they've had many, many injuries. And, people looked at us and said, well, they're still going back to do gymnastics. And if you're not in the gymnastics world, you can't understand the love that, both my sons had for it. So they pushed through surgeries, injuries, hospital stays. Oh my, I can't tell you how many times. I think I might have mentioned that to you once before. And they've pushed through. One time at one point, I was like, I should write a book about what they've gone through, those two, because they're thriving and they're doing fine. And I think some people just don't understand that some of those setbacks really make you who you are in the future. And you can either be made as a person who just feels sorry for themselves the rest of their life, or somebody who pushes through and thrives.
I just along the same lines, I just was working with a trainer that is sight impaired, and he said, "Dan," he goes, "I worked with other people that have sight impaired, and he almost blind." And he
Wow.
said, "When I work with them, what I found is I've been fortunate. My parents never stopped me from doing anything." He said, "When I wanted to play baseball, they let me play baseball." He said it was a disaster, but they let me fall on my head. He said, "Where he's met a lot of other people that were sight impaired that their parents tried to protect them." He said, "And now you look at them and they're so scared to do anything." So sometimes just allowing somebody to hit the wall a little bit makes them a little tougher. So the next time they got to hit the wall, And life is full of walls,
Absolutely.
right?
No, those are your obstacles,
Those are
walls.
your obstacles.
No,
Yeah.
those are your obstacles, but you either have a choice. There was a whole thing, you see a wall when you're growing up. I forget what the song used to be. You sing it at camp. You see a river. Do you go through it? Do you go around it? Do you swim through it? I forget how it went, but that's exactly what it is. The wall. You get over that wall.
Now, I mean, one thing, I have a daughter who I'm crazy about my daughter. Seeing her hit the wall is harder sometimes than hitting it yourself, right? So
Correct.
with your sons, I'm sure, like, looking at them go through it, it's much tougher to, like, let them go. All right, let them go, let them hit the wall, right? When we,
And I think like with any parent, like you're saying, any parent, you don't want to see your child get hurt or suffer through anything. And so does it hurt you more? Sometimes it does. And they might not see it at that moment, but it truly does. But you have to also be that person to pick them up and make them push through because you have to guide them. It's you're being a parent, correct?
I wrote a book called Fast Tracking Your Prosperity. I wrote it for my daughter, and in it, I tell a story of when I was in kindergarten. It was kindergarten, going back a long ways, but there was a kid, Lloyd, in my class. He was the tough kid in the class, and the teacher said nobody chew gum, and he was chewing gum. And for God, I don't know why I raised my hand. I went, Lloyd is chewing gum, and I don't know
Tattle.
why I tattled. I shouldn't have done it. I don't know why. I don't know what came over me, but he came up to me and he goes, "You're dead. Me and my buddies are going to beat you up." I went home that night, and I remember just like crying, and my dad's like, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Dad, this kid Lloyd is the toughest kid in the class," and I tattled on him. And obviously, my dad was like, "Listen, why'd you do that? Don't do that," and blah blah blah. And then I thought, I was like, "Dad, he's going to kill me. Him and his friends are going to kill me." So I was hoping my dad would call his parents and beg for my life, but instead he said, "I expect you to go there, beat him up, and don't come home. You can't come home unless you beat him up." And at the time, I was thinking, "Are you crazy?" But you know what? It was actually the best thing that ever happened. I mean, because, and anyways, long story, but he showed
You
up at the
learn.
school to make sure I was okay.
And
But
what happened?
so I went outside, and then Lloyd came over to me and he said, "You know what, kid? You're okay. We're gonna let you go." And I looked at him. I said, "Lloyd, you can't let me go." I said, "I can't go home unless I beat you up." And you know what?
Best friends for life after that, I'm
After
assuming.
that, he never looked at me the same. It was one of
See,
those moments, but sounds silly now, but as when you were a kid in kindergarten, you're like, "Yeah, it's real." I'm like, "I'm gonna die right now." I
that's an
remember looking at
obstacle
I remember
you
looking at the long
overcame.
staircase going outside. I mean, that was the longest staircase I'd ever seen in my life. I remember taking that walk with my head down, and
When you look back at it when you were a kid, those are obstacles that you had, and that was the adversity you had to go through. And that was the biggest thing. So, and then we put it in perspective as we get older and go, oh my, you look back and that's why when you tell your kids if they're going through something like that, that it's going to be okay. And they don't get it until they're our age.
do you think you look back on it and the things you went through are things that you needed to go through to get to where you are? In other words, you think there was almost like a greater purpose in it?
Yeah. Yeah, there are. There
Sort of a
are.
deep question, it's
There it is. Oh man, I can just give you my whole life story if you really wanted that, and that's a lot. But but I mean, as a kid, he just really brought something up to me that was something, and I don't mind sharing this because this is for everybody to know out there. If you can push through. And closest friends, I have a dear friend who's been my friend since I was 5. My girlfriend Susan, I love her. Uh, when I was younger and I was in ballet and I was in school and I got sick and there was an illness that came through. And, at that time you went to your family doctor for everything. And I forget his name. And I lost the sense of feeling in both my legs, Dr. Dan. I don't usually bring that up. So I was home for almost 3 months and they were trying to find out what was wrong with me. At the time, they wouldn't put me in a hospital. They thought I got some kind of bug that went through my legs. And my girlfriend Susan would bring me all the cards from grammar school to my house to see me. Mr. Poper, my teacher, was cool. Never found out what it was. I had to push through. I used to cry. I didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to go back to school because I couldn't walk. And wasn't physical therapy. It was my parents who pushed me through, and my ballet teacher. I guess that was physical therapy to help me to walk. And to this day, I could get a tear in my eye. It was a very big obstacle for me. You just brought me way back, Dr. Dan. But that was an obstacle, and that's adversity that I went through. So you learned a lot more about Felicia today, my dear.
And I'm so glad to learn it. I'm sorry you went through that, but look at you now. You became the person that just blows through everything, and you do it with a smile. And
Yeah, you don't see me after 9 o'clock. The hair is up. I can't move now. Go ahead.
you know, we've had many conversations, and I honestly, I don't recall ever seeing you in a bad mood. So that's impressive.
I try not to be. I try not to be, my dear. I try not to be. And I don't want to ever see you in a bad mood. I've never seen you either in one of those. So you know what? There we are. We'll just keep feeding off each other the good thoughts, because that's what it is. And you mentioned John earlier, and John's there, to help too. He's good like that.
He's an amazing guy. He's really, I can't tell you what an inspiration he's been in my life.
I'm glad for that. See?
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to surround
Like I
yourself.
said, I mean, going back and the people you meet, the things you go through, I always have to believe that there's some bigger purpose in it. And I think you're part of that. And I definitely think John's part of that. And I thank you guys for Brand Ambassador Select and allowing me to be on the train. Put me in the caboose, for God's sake.
You better hold on tight. Because I don't know, you might make me push you to the side again. Yeah, the caboose. Yeah, that's exactly it.
As long as you don't tie me to the tracks, we're good.
Wasn't a thought. Don't worry about it. It wasn't a thought. So
All right,
here
good.
we are. We're good.
Felicia, thank you for everything you do, and amazing that you turned the company on a dime like that, and you've gone into a whole new area that it's pretty. I understand it's pretty scary to go through something like that until you get to the other side of it. Then you look back on it and you go, "Wow, there's growth in that."
So I'm pulling a
You just
Captain
went
Kirk. Is that what I'm doing? I'm going me on.
Yes. What is that transporter he had?
Exactly. Beam me up, Scotty.
Beam me up, Scotty. It would be nice if we had that, right? You know what? Beam me up to the other side of this obstacle, right?
I like that. Beam me up to I like that. Keep that. I like that line, Dr. Dan. That's good. Well, I thank you, and it was great speaking with you.
It's always
and we have to see each other in person again soon, okay? When everything's
I really
a little better.
look forward to that. I really look forward to that.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that experiences. And
you made me cry before. Yeah.
Okay. You're awesome.
Bye.
And thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.